Good morning, everyone. A warm welcome to all of you who has joined us today for our workshop on ISO 9001 2015, which is your gateway to advancing your knowledge on mastering quality management systems. So, this online training program is designed to offer you an engaging and interactive learning experience, allowing you to progress at your own pace while gaining insights from industry experts. So, throughout this workshop, we will be exploring various modules with practical exercises and real world applications that will undoubtedly equip you with the tools necessary to thrive in the competitive industry. So this workshop has been organized in collaboration with Halcyon Lanka Private Limited, which is a company specialized in management systems consultancy services. So Halcyon Lanka offers expertise in areas such as internal audit programs, risk management, extended supply chain solutions and audits, quality assurance inspections, and training programs. So, with an experienced team of consultants, Halcyon Lanka has been a trusted partner for nearly 2 decades with over 19 years of consultancy and training experience backed by a qualified staff. So, now, without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce our speaker for the day, Mr. Rasita Niroshana, a seasoned expert in quality management systems with over 22 years of experience in the field. Uh, Mr. Rasita is currently serving as the director and senior management consultant at Halcyon Lanka Private Limited, and also Mr. Rasita is an honors graduate in chemistry from the Institute of Chemistry, Sri Lanka, and a postgraduate diploma holder in manufacturing management, a course conducted by the University of Colombo, Sri Lanka. And also, he is a diploma holder in quality management, a course conducted by the Sri Lanka Standard Institution, and also he's a member of the Royal Australian Chemical Institute. So his powers has been recognized by the extent that he was made the lead auditor ISO 22000 2018, ISO 15001 2011, ISO 45001 2018, and HACCP. Lead auditor ISO 9001 2015, TPM instructor for Japanese Institute of Preventive Maintenance. So I encourage everyone to engage actively throughout the workshop. Feel free to ask questions, share your insights, and make the most of this valuable learning opportunity. Mr. Rasita, over to you.
Good morning, Avni. I think thank you very much for the nice introduction. I think like that will basically boost the day. And when basically we said online training program, there are positives, there are negatives. What you said was quite right. You can basically work at your pace and listen to this, and then you can minimize the traveling cost. Basically we call the cut down the waste. And at the same time, there are some negative impact because you don't have in-person communication, and then there will be a kind of a delay communicating with the teams, and then there will be a technological issue as well. So what we try to do is even this program is online. We try to make sure this program is handled in a very effective way. So I think all of you have been connect with the WhatsApp chat. So we'll be doing some case studies. So I will get a reflection from you all, and then I can give you feedback. And then I think all of you have basically connect through the WhatsApp. So we try to use the technology as much as possible. And then whenever there's a case studies, you can actually work on and share your information with me, so I can give a direct feedback. So even though this is a online program, so implement a workshop, we'll try to make sure you work on basically whatever the main requirement, right? And then we'll have a good communication. So let me start with this diagram we call PDCA. What do you mean by PDCA? Is actually plan, do, check, tag. So all ISO standard, not only ISO 9001 2015, even quality environment, there are 22,000 odd standards are there, number standards are there. So all these standards are basically covers under PDCA plan, right? So now since we are trying to focus on 9001 2015 standard, right? So let us go through a kind of a summary. right? In kind of a nutshell, understand the summary. So then like, okay, these are the key areas, and then we will go in depth. So in this standard, there are 10 clauses. We clauses mean like, any organization when they want to apply 9,000, the quality management system, right? So they need to cover all these 10 clauses. So I'm like, you don't have any like, decision making power at this point. Like, I'm going to eliminate like, clause number 4. No way. You have to cover entire thing. So if you want to go for a certification, and then when you go through the standard, you will understand like, people might have an idea saying, okay, quality management system is only for like, QA team. Since like, I know like this is we today we have a kind of a mix batch. I don't have inside like, total detail about the composition, but I believe majority are coming from university, and then there will be balance will come from the industry, right? So we try to share the experience as well. So like when somebody said quality assurance or quality management, people might think like, okay, this is a only a QA job, the particular department job. I'm like, it's actually a myth. So when you go through this standard actually covered, this is very good advanced standard, covers top management to like, of entire organization. So let's try to understand. So this is the summary, this is in nutshell. So you have a kind of an overview about the standard, and then we'll go in detail. So in this standard, there are 3 areas: scope, reference, terms, and definition. So when you talk about these 3 areas, these are specific for standard. What do you mean by ISO 9000:2015 scope? What are the reference? And then terms and definition, like, if somebody said non-conformance or corrective action or internal audit. So those definitions. So first 3 elements are pretty much based to the standard. So you are not going to audit or you're not going to implement anything using this first 3 scopes. So these are standard specific one. So element 4 onwards, we have to implement when you do the audit, we have to use this area. So element 4 talk about context of the organization. So there are, I'll just rush through this part. So just to have an overview, understand the organization and context, understand the need and expectation of interested parties, scope of the quality management system manage process. That's the first one. And then second one is talk about the leadership. That's element number 5. Very important part. The customer focus, quality policy, organization roles, responsibility, accountability, and authority. And then element number 6 talk about planning, action to address risk and opportunity, quality objective and planning to achieve them, planning of changes, legal and other requirements, objective and program. So these element number 6. Element number 7 talk about resource. So under resource, there are areas, people, infrastructure, environment of the operation of the process, monitoring and measuring of the resource, organization knowledge, competency, training awareness, communication, documented information. And element number 8 is talk about operational planning and control, requirement for product and service. So this is the biggest area. You can see it. Customer communication, review of the requirement of the product and service, control of externally provided process, product and service, production and service provision, identification of traceability, post-delivery activities, control of changes, release of product and service, control of non-conformity output, communication, participation, and consultation. So these are key areas. And then 9 talk about performance evaluation, monitoring, measuring, analysis, and evaluation, performance measurement and monitoring, evaluation of compliance, customer satisfaction, internal audit, management review, and the last one, improvement, non-conformity and corrective action, and continuous improvement. Let me go back to the first slide. So it said PDCA, plan, do, check, act, right? So under planning, context comes under planning, leaderships comes under planning, planning anyway comes under planning, and then support comes under planning. So first 4 elements, 4, 5, 6, 7 comes under planning. And then operation comes under do, and then performance evaluation comes under checking, and then improvements comes under improvement, right? PDC action, right? So these are the key areas. Now we will go into detail element by element. So when you come to context, right? So this is actually a kind of a missing part in the previous standard. Why I'm saying it's a kind of a missing parts mean this was the previous standard ISO 9001 2008 version, or maybe ISO 9001 2000 version. That both standard doesn't contain this particular element. So it's all about like middle level management to below. There will be those standard 2000 version, 2008 version talk about management representative. So organization top management, what they did was actually they nominate uh, management representative to act on behalf of top management. They nominate a person. This version 9001 2015 standard basically eliminate that part, right? So this, and then the organization strategies, leadership, strategic direction, and the risk part was not considered the previous standard. So this new standard started to talk about that. When you talk about organization context, so you can see the middle one is organization. So there will be employees, right? The new already engaged employees are there, and then parent companies must be there, or maybe stakeholders, and then maybe NGOs, right? So they have some sort of a saying against the organization, and then you have most important part, your customers, client, or business partners, and then maybe community, your neighbors, unless your facility, like if it is a manufacturing facility, unless it's in the manufacturing zone, you if you are in a kind of a village, so your neighboring communities are there, and of course your competitors, and then of course government regulation bodies are there. So the decisions of these people, or the expectation, need an expectation from this, the surrounding community is really matter to the organization, right? So this is what context of the organization. So let me go through this. When you try to understand the organization context, you need to understand the external as well as internal. So the external factors can be positive sometimes, factors can be negative sometimes. Then again, internal factors can be positive, factors can be negative. Say, for example, if I take this example, depend on the legal requirement, country's legal requirement, right? So, there are some legal regulations will be changed. Say, for example, occupation health and safety requirements will be changed. So then organization need to act accordingly. So, and then there are the industries, they have strict legal control. Say, for example, one example, pesticide, right? So you can't just form a company and import pesticide, or you can't just set up a company and start packing pesticide. So there are legal guidelines. So legal requirement, and then technological factors, because sometimes you might need to bring technology, but like countries like us, we can't bring all the technologies the way we want. And then maybe there will be some time delays. So then when you compete with the overseas markets, there are players who come from developed countries. They are using high technology, but we are not using the high technology because of the money constraint, the financial constraint. So we have, but again, the product has to have the same quality. So those are positive, negative factors, and then competitive. So where's your market share? Like whether your product is competitive, price competitive, in terms of quality, is there any advantage? So those are the things we need to check. And then the market, whether in your area, whether market is improving. All of you, I believe most of you are coming from food sector. So whether food market is thriving, or its market is declining. So now even in Sri Lanka, if you are in the construction industry, there was a time construction started to go on a kind of kind of negative flow, but right now the construction started to pick up, right? So those information, so those are positive. The previous is a kind of a negative, and the culture, right? Now the surrounding community, the way people work, way people treat to the other employees, because we have seen there are some issues, some countries, people will act very aggressive way, right? So but in our country it's not that aggressive. So there are positive, negatives, and then social and economic environment. whether like what are the current economic environment, whether the what is the buying power of the people. So you can see in this area we are looking at a very big picture, right? And then what are the international trades agreement? Even like if you are talking about the organization in Sri Lanka now, we try to develop kind of a good relationship with India. So the prime minister is his visit is scheduled right now. So those are see now when we are talking about ISO 9000 2015, we are talking about the international. And then yesterday there was a serious earthquake in Thailand. So is there any effect for us? And then what about the war in Russia and Ukraine? Because war it has big impact because when you're bringing a product and then red ocean issue because of the pirate issues, so there are some ships they change the route, longer route, so then we have to pay more cost. So those things we need to consider. So you can imagine, right? This under context, you are not just talking about your organization, you are talking about entire organization. And then Britex is coming. So all these areas we need to look at. And then regional and local situation, right? Or political situation, external, all these things we need to study. So there will be some positives, there will be some negatives. So under context, element number 4, we need to know what would be the positive aspect for our organization, what would be the negative aspect for our organization, and especially nowadays the climate change, the weather pattern are totally unpredictable. See, imagine you are having a factory and you are having a crop, it's purely depend on the weather pattern. What will happen? Right? And then when you have a transportation system, like say your organization is a transportation organization, and then what happened? Can you deliver your product on time, your customer's product on time? So the weather pattern has big impact. So under context, this external part, we need to study that, right? What are the external areas, positives and negatives? And then when it's come to internal organization, right? The see these are not uh, I don't know whether you are familiar with this part, but since we are doing this ISO for almost now 20 years, we know when somebody said ISO, people think the books, the procedures, manual kind of thing. It's not. Still, we have not gone to the procedures, right? You can't write a procedure about the external context because it's changed every day. Because until yesterday, Thailand is a kind of a good business place. People travel there for purchase and all. But yesterday onwards, there's a serious issue. So your context has changed, right? Imagine people bringing from product from Thailand. There are countries, right? So then you can't do that, right? So context has changed. So this you can't have a procedure and study procedure. It evolved every day. And then when you come to organization, internal organization, again you can't develop procedures value of the organization, how organization employee treat people, how organization employee treat customers, right? So these are very important part because sometimes you're losing customers not because of anything else, the way your people treat them. So top management say, okay, we need to have a good customer caring policy, everything is developed. But if your employee, the person who actually handled the telephone call, doesn't know how to talk to the customer, right? So these are very areas we need to touch. So the value, the culture of the organization, what is your culture? Is a positive culture, negative, toxic culture? So these things we need to study. And then your your mixture of your decision making powers, all these things we need. And then knowledge. See, there are some organization, there are senior people, they are very knowledgeable, but they don't pass that knowledge to the second level. Right. So there will be some collapse. So we know there are we have plenty of example like that. So when the top level got retired, the second place people they cannot perform the way the previous people play. Right. So there are scenarios. So knowledge, how you transfer the knowledge. So we need to study what are the positive, what are the negatives, and then performance of the organization. We use word KPI. I believe you guys are familiar with KPI, key performance indicators. So are we meeting the KPIs or are we not meeting the KPIs? And then maybe facility, maybe your organization infrastructure. All these things we need to study under context. So this is a very simple but very important, right? If you are familiar with analysis PESTEL, right? Political, environmental, social, those analysis, you can use that for the first part. And then maybe you can do the SWOT analysis, strength, weakness part for your organization. So this is one area where ISO 9000 is starting up. Right. Now, we are going to start the case studies. Right. So I just basically explain the areas we are going to do. So I want you to just think of your organization. Like, if you're working for an organization, think of the positives and the negatives, external factors in terms of political, environment, social, whatever. Right. And then in your organization, think of the internal part, your values, culture, those kind of things. So maybe you can actually uh, draw it, take a picture and share it on the WhatsApp. I will have have a small discussion, taking few samples, right? And then maybe you might have a question. I don't work in organization. Maybe you can consider your home, right, as an organization because it has the entire structure. So you consider your home as organization. You can do the SWOT analysis and the pestle, or maybe look at these factors for your home. Or otherwise, if most of you are coming from university, right, you can consider your university as a unit, and then you can do this context analysis. Can we do this now? So if I give 5 minutes, can you do and share with me on the chat? So you don't need to mention the organization, but just mention the scope. Like say, for example, if I have to do this, I will say consultancy company. So we do ISO related consultancy. So don't mention the name. Maybe you think because see, this information will be very confidential. So that's why standard doesn't ask this information in a public format. So most of the time, like when you go for the audit and all, like this context analysis done by the most senior people, the directors and the senior managers. And then this information only available maybe with the most senior person, maybe CEO or maybe director or GM, right? So this is the about your organization. So now think yourself as a CEO or GM and do this study, right? Can we take 5 minutes? Is that I think you can use these chats like this, maybe if you're okay, right? So these symbols we'll use. So I want this program to be not one-way communication. Oh yeah, I'm getting feedback. Or is it a question? Or this is actually a question mark. So if you want to ask question, you can use this. Or otherwise, there's a other column called React. So you can have a thumb up like this, like that. Okay. So then I know you are into it. So can we get this feedback from you all? So can we spend 5 minutes and then you can use the I think already you have a group, right? We have a group, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we can use the group chat. Yeah. Right. So are we good to go? Are we good to go? Shall we take 5 minutes? So you're going to do a context analysis. So this is the implementer program, right? So I'm not going to talk. You are going to work on. So then when you go to the industry, you know what to do. Yep. Team, are you good?
Yes, sir.
Right. Excellent. So we'll take 5 minutes. Now time is 9:36. So maybe 41. 9:41. We'll have review. But before that, you can share that information on WhatsApp. So I'll review. We'll take few samples.
Hi everyone, Shehan from Halcyon Private Limited. If any of you have questions or are willing to answer, you all can use the raise your hand option and we will grant you access to unmute your mic.
Shan already one. I can see only one. There's one question. I don't know whether it's a question or.
Jayasingh's mic has been enabled. If he has a question, he can unmute and ask.
Okay, so somebody has said dairy product manufacturing. All right, great. So can you do the context for dairy product manufacturing? Interesting. So your context would be very interesting, like where your factory is, uh, like uh, I think so. We do have two chat. I think we are going to use the one chat, right? The latest one, right? So dairy product manufacturing, can you do the context, the external? Okay, I'm getting some feedbacks. Interesting. Right. Uh, okay, so I got one feedback from FMCG company. Said the positive factors, having strong cluster for collecting raw materials and trust on supply with long-term relationship. So these are external, right? And availability of manpower and human resource. That's a that's very nice one. Good working environment and positive culture for employees feedback. So this can be internal, right? So I just want you to break it into external and internal, right? Certified BRC, GS, FSSC, and social compliance. Okay, so that can be external or maybe both internal, right? So maybe you can break it into positives, external positives, and then internal positives, and then maybe negative factors, uh, fluctuation of raw material price. Very nice. That can be external because raw material price can be external. So the fluctuation of external prices, with the dollar fluctuation. But right now I think like its dollar is kind of like stabilized to 90 95 something, right? And then accessibility and non-availability of raw material. So because if it is FMCG, you might need to bring all the materials, right? Import most of the materials, and then depend on the energy source, one energy source. So interesting. See, in Sri Lanka, most of the industries, very nice. Industries we have a issue because we are very much depend on the grid electricity, right? So when there's a power failure, unless you are in a industrial zone, so this could be a very negative factor. So this is again external factor, right? So what you have done is quite okay. Like you identify the positive negatives, and then later on we can break it. Energy source, no alternate products on the production flow. So maybe you might say, okay, we have FMCG, but we are heavily depend on one product. There are companies you have a market share, but typically you're 80% of your revenue comes from one particular product. So that could be a kind of a risk factor. What happens if there's a big competitor come for that particular product? So interesting. So thank you very much. And then I got another one. Right. Um, so so you did a university context analysis, right? Internal context, mission, quality education, research, student success, stakeholder, admin facility. Okay, you go into the next level, I guess, but that's fine. Admin facility staff, process, lecturing, research, admin, and then weakness, process gaps, quality issues, resource. Okay, so let's see the external context. Internal context. Okay, weakness, process gaps, quality issues, resource issues. Yeah, and then you did basically internal you using the SWOT analysis part. This is good. And then second one, external context, regulation, accreditation. Yeah, because uh, there will be accreditation system for the education level, right? Are we following that? So then industry needs job ready graduate. Yeah, because nowadays the job market has basically shifting into a different level, right? And then still our education system is following the same traditional method. So there was a gap between the job market, and so this can be a external factor. Very nice. And digital learning, innovation. So now, uh, tech trend, AI. So I guess what you mean by this is you don't need like us, you don't need to spend time on doing the assignment, right? You can use AI, and then within 5 minutes you are done with the assignment. Is that what you mean? Right? Yeah. So the AI is so powerful right now, right? Then community role, outreach, global impact, and then risk and opportunities, inconsistent, resistant funding, yeah, opportunities, ranking, industry ties, a better service implementation. Okay, so don't go into implementation part. I think we got two feedbacks. See team, what I want from you is give me the feedback. So then I can basically make sure this program will be very customized to you all, right? And then I can give my feedback. Otherwise I will just because I can't see you all. So I was just looking to the screen and talking. So I need this feedback. So this feedback mechanism will basically give you a kind of a there was a gap between the when you do the training program online. So that gap will be we can eliminate that gap. Shan, I think like there was one inquiry. Someone wants to ask question. Jai Singh wants to ask question. Shan, are you there? Pushpika, are you there?
Yes, sir. He can ask his question. His mic has been enabled.
Yeah, Jai Singh, if you have a question, you can ask. I think it's mistaken. Right. Okay, fine. Tim, I want this both way communication. So I got two feedbacks. I believe I will get more. Okay, I got one more. So let's read that as well. Let's see what is that. Yeah, this is one way. Like you can see you write it down in the paper and then take a picture and upload. Yeah, that's good. You type, take pictures, whatever. We need to communicate. Internal, external. Okay, so context analysis. Okay, Unilever, right? Okay. Internal context, positive multinational consumer good product, food, beverage, personal care. So many things were there. A good market working environment. The digital marketing is there, and then negative employee difficult to reach digital marketing, and then supply chain discrepancy. So these are kind of internal context. They identify the positive negatives, and then external context, rising consumer demand because the consumers are exposed, right? And then they ask for a lot of things. So and the CSR project regulation on sustainability because there are a lot of regulations coming on sustainability. Very nice. And then negative raw material price, the previous also talk about the raw material price, the fluctuation, competitive organization, ethical product, influence of product innovation. So all these things were there, right? Excellent. Thank you. So I expect more during the program because now you believe I believe you have some idea the way we are going on, right? So we need to have a two-way communication. Then then this program will be actually implement the program. I want everybody to write it down. So then okay, these are the areas I need to write down. These are the areas when I involve in the industry. These are the things I'm going to do, right? Otherwise, if you listen to this, you're not gaining anything. So context analysis has to be a key requirement in the organization. So normally what the practices are top management, they get together, maybe depend on the complexity or depend on the volatility of the organization. They do this context analysis normally every year, maybe 6 months, or maybe quarterly you do this. And then you document, or if that's whatever the organization require. Then you identify what are the positives, what are the negatives. So now you might have a question once you do this study, what are you going to do? So just keep this information. Now I have three information, right? So we'll keep it as it is, right? This information, right? So we'll keep this information as it is, and then we'll move on to the other one. So now I believe the second person is talk about this part as well. We call it there are more feedbacks coming up. Okay, so I'll just set them on the whatever the feedbacks coming up. I'll go to the next one. So understanding the need and expectation of interested parties, right? So you do the context, and then you need to do the study for interested parties. So any organization, any person, they have interested party. So Standard basically said, due to their effect or potential effect on the organization ability to consistently provide and service, product and service. So this is very important that meet customer and applicable statutory regulatory requirement, the organization shall determine, right? See, the whole purpose, if somebody asks, what do you mean by 9,000? What are the benefit organization can get if you obtain ISO 9001? Very simply, you can say ability to consistently provide product and service. That's it. See, if somebody comes to Halcyon uh, and try to get ISO consultancy, it doesn't matter whether it's me, whether it's Pushpika, whether it's somebody else, it should be the same. Why? All of us were managing the processes. All of us were actually following the processes. It has to be same. If somebody go to a the pastry shop, the service level and the product quality has to be same. Why? The way they manufacture the pastry or whatever the food, it has to be same. It should not depend on the chef, right? And then the service level, like an organization might say, okay, you need to give a kind of a greeting, right? I'm like say when most of the time when you go to the organization, you might feel like you are a kind of enemy. You did something wrong to these people, right? They're not even laughing, right? So the service level has to be there. Like somebody has to say, great, good morning, good afternoon, whatever, I want. So they have to say something. So if you have that service level, so the consistent service level doesn't matter, depend on the people. And then people might have a question. So people might think like when you get ISO, like anybody can do anything. No way. Do you think like that? Can I get your honest opinion? See, when you have ISO, whatever said, like right now, anybody can do anything. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Like anybody can do anything? I think there's some message, different message chat. I don't know whether it's relevant for this one or not. Just check on that part. What about what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? If you develop process and everything, can anybody do the same work? What do you think? How many of you think like that? So if like like you develop documents, everything, you complete the process like that. So the outcome of ISO is like consistently provide product and service that meet customer requirement. So what do you think? Like after you document, develop all the processes, can anyone do the any process? What do you think? What do you think? Maybe you can use the chat. What do you think? Can anyone use it? Can't. Yeah, I got the feedback. So you can't. Why? What do you mean by can't? See, okay, I'm getting feedback from chat. Not exactly. As an answer does not mean that anybody can do anything. It's actually establish a structure system where processes are well defined, roles are clear, and quality is maintained through control measures and continuous improvement. Yeah, no, you have not adhere to the document process. Yeah, I fully agree with you because see, there was a one particular word called competency, right? So only that particular competent person can do that process. See, if I'm not trained I'm not competent as a a front office person. I can't be because I'm not a front office person, right? I'm actually a technical person. So I don't know how to treat the customer, how to communicate with the customer. If customer is angry, I don't know how to handle the customer. So I'm not trained. I don't have that competencies, right? So only that particular competence person, because when you go to industry, people might come up with this kind of a scenario. Like when you have ISO, anybody can do anything. No, that's not. So only the competencies, there was a nice explanation from the chat, say only responsible people, right? So this is very important. And then what do you mean by interested parties? See, the interested parties that are relevant to the quality management system, the requirement of these interested parties that are relevant to quality management, the organization shall monitor and review information about these interested parties and their relevant requirement. What do you mean by this? 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 The organization shall monitor and review information. So again, it's the same thing. You know, when you do the context analysis, you study actually, like, the positives and negatives. So each and every interested parties in your organization, you have positives and negatives, right? So like, like, say for example, now you took one example about the university, right? In universities, there are a list of interested parties. Say for example, students are interested on particular university. Like, student might say, okay, I need to get into this particular university. Why? This university has these qualities. So that's the student interest. So depend on the student interest, there are positive negatives. And then now most of the government institute, like, universities, they have MSCs. So people, like, MSc is a paid program. So you select the university. Like, you want to do MSc or, like, your PhD, but you don't go to any university, you select this particular university. So that's the reputation of the university. So your students are interested party. Maybe neighbors, if your university is in the kind of village area, neighbors are interested party, and then maybe NGOs are interested party, maybe political parties are interested party. So depend on their interest, so there will be a, like, positive and negative impact, right? I believe, like, I give enough example. Now let us do a small case study. I want you to study the, like, your industry. Now we have few feedbacks. Like, you talk about dairy industry, you talk about multinational. I got three feedbacks, and then one person talk about the university. Like that, you can consider your organization, and if you don't have organization, consider your university or your home, and then list down the interested parties. Okay, these are the people who are interested about our organization, our home, our university, our business unit, right? And then depend on their interest, what are the positive interests, what are the negative interests. Can you do this within 2 minutes? Can we do this? Team, I need some quick reaction now. Guys, I need this. Come on. Can we do this? Can we take 2 minutes and do this? All right, excellent. We do. All right, we are getting feedback. So guys, now we need to work fast. Right? This is the implementer program. I'm not doing a lecturing, right? I'm not a lecturer as well. So I'm not doing a lecturing. So this is the implementer. So I have to make sure end of this program, you guys are capable of, like, implementing the ISO system. That's the whole purpose of this program. So even whether it's a inline, online, or whether it's a physical, it should be the same. So I need feedback. So guys, take 2 minutes, 3 minutes, write down the interested parties, write down the positive things, write down the negative things. Let's do that. Right, take 2 minutes, and then you can upload in the chat. During that time, I'll just check. So don't send the wrong messages. I might get confused. So somebody has sent me the direction. I don't know whether to come there or not. Right, so it was deleted. Right, so be careful. So there's another feedback about the previous context analysis. Okay, let's see. Brother, I can't read this, sir. The very artistic handwritten document, but like all bola things are there, but I can't read it. Positive. Thank you for sharing, but I'm sorry, I can't read this. Can you help me on this? Sorry, I can't read this. Ansika, I'm sorry. I try to read this, but I'm sorry I can't. Right, guys, can I get the feedback? So identify your interested parties for your organization, and then identify the positives and negatives. See, if you're doing this exercise, end of the day, you will be basically covering the entire ISO 9000, 2015 standard, and then you know how to implement this wherever organization you go. Right.